Skyrim is a province of loud locations. Black Reach glows beneath the earth. Sovereign Guard burns in golden myth. The throat of the world scrapes the sky. But some places whisper. This place is one of those. Tucked quietly in the mountains southeast of Helgen, this cave rarely appears in discussions about Skyrim's most mysterious or most dangerous locations. It isn't tied to a Daedric prince, it isn't part of the main quest. It doesn't contain a legendary artifact that players obsess over. And yet, it might be one of the strangest, most overlooked locations in the entire province. Because South Fringe Sanctum is not just a cave, it's a borderland refuge, a political statement, a forgotten experiment in coexistence. And almost nobody goes there. To understand why South Fringe Sanctum is so unexplored, you have to look at where it sits. It's near Helgen, a location players rush through in the opening hours of the game. But after Helgen burns and the tutorial ends, most players never return to that stretch of wilderness, unless a quest demands it. And South Fringe Sanctum never demands anything. There is no radiant bounty sending you there early on. No major faction quest that points you towards it, and no NPC in Riverwood whispers rumours about it. It exists quietly, almost defiantly off the beaten path. Skyrim trains players to follow markers, rumours, and dramatic events. South Fringe Sanctum offers none of those hooks. You only find it if you deliberately explore the mountain ridges and cold edges near the southern border, which means most players never see it at all. And that's exactly what makes it fascinating. When you finally enter this cave, you expect bandits, or Falmer, or vampires. Instead, you find something far stranger. The cave is occupied primarily by hostile mages, conjurers, alchemists, and refugees from the College of Winterhold. These are not typical enemy necromancers chanting in ritual circles. They are mages who have withdrawn from society. Some were expelled from the college, some left voluntarily, some simply don't belong anywhere else. South Fringe Sanctum is not a lair, it's a refuge more like. Inside you find makeshift living quarters, alchemy tables, and quiet signs of domestic life. There is an air of seclusion rather than aggression. The inhabitants are defensive, yes, but not inherently malicious. It feels less like a dungeon and more like a hidden community. And that subtle difference makes the cave feel alive in a way most Skyrim locations never attempt. Geographically, South Fringe Sanctum sits near the southern border of Skyrim, close to Cyrodiil. And that matters. Skyrim's civil war rages across the province. The Thalmor hunt Talos worshippers. The College of Winterhold is mistrusted by nearly every hold. Magic itself is viewed with suspicion. Now imagine being a mage during this time. Where do you go? Not to Whiterun, they distrust magic. Not to Windhelm, they distrust outsiders. Not to Markarth, they distrust everyone. So you go south, you go to the mountains, you go somewhere no one will look. South Fringe becomes symbolic of something larger, the quiet exile of knowledge. It's a physical manifestation of how Skyrim pushes its intellectuals and mages to the margins. The province is loud about warriors and gods, but it is suspicious of scholars. And so the scholars disappear into caves. What makes South Fringe Sanctum even stranger is its proximity to Helgen. Helgen is where everything begins. It's the birthplace of the Dragonborn's story, the execution block, Alduin's return, the moment the world changes forever. Players remember Helgen vividly, the burning towers, the collapsing walls, the dragon overhead. And yet, just a short distance into the southern mountains, sits this cave, untouched by spectacle, untouched by destiny. That's the paradox. You start your journey in this region, you escape through its forests, you follow Hadvar or Ralof through its caves, You look back at Halligan's smoking ruins and then you leave. You never think to climb higher. You never think to search the ridges. You never suspect that just beyond the path of your escape lies a hidden enclave of displaced mages. It's almost poetic. The most dramatic opening in Skyrim happens within the sight of one of its most overlooked sanctuaries. Halligan burns loudly. South Fringe waits quietly. One announces itself with fire and prophecy, the other hides in silence. And somehow, we remember only the flames. Unlike necromancer dens filled with corpses and ritual blood, South Fringe feels subdued. Yes, there are summoned creatures and magical defences. Yes, the inhabitants will attack if provoked. But there's no grand ritual, no Daedric shrine, no apocalyptic experiment unfolding. Instead, it feels like research. The cave contains alchemical ingredients, spell tomes, and study areas. It suggests that these mages are continuing their craft in isolation, refining magic away from political interference. It almost feels peaceful, which makes it deeply unusual. Skyrim rarely portrays magic outside of extremes, either heroic or monstrous. South Fringe Sanctum presents something in between. It's not evil, it's not good, it's simply removed. And that quiet neutrality may be why players overlook it. It doesn't shock, it doesn't terrify, it just exists. South Fringe Sanctum has no major questline attached to it. It only has 1 or 2 artifacts that draws you in, but the most prominent feature of South Fringe is the mage that is trapped within, and her name is Sloveni. It's optional in the purest sense. You don't need to go there to free her. But that optionality reveals something important about Skyrim's design philosophy. Bethesda built a world where not every place revolves around the player. Some places exist independently. The Sanctum does not care whether you discover it. Its inhabitants were surviving before you arrived and would continue to survive if you never came. That gives it an eerie authenticity. In a game where dragons wait for your arrival and Daedric princes single you out as chosen champion, South Fringe Sanctum feels refreshingly indifferent. It doesn't need you, and that makes it feel real. The College of Winterhold presents itself as a bastion of magical study in Skyrim, but it is also exclusive, political, and heavily scrutinised. Some mages are expelled, others leave in frustration. The college's leadership walks a careful line to avoid angering the Jarls. South Fringe Sanctum represents what happens to mages who fall through those cracks. It's not a rebellion against the college, it's what's left over. And that's quietly tragic. These aren't villains plotting conquest. They are displaced scholars trying to continue their work. Somewhere the world won't judge them. In that sense, the cave feels more human than most magical locations in the game. It shows us what magic looks like when stripped of glory. Skyrim is filled with grand ruins and dramatic dungeons, but its most interesting stories are often the ones that don't demand your attention. South Fringe Sanctum doesn't scream, it doesn't glow, it doesn't threaten the world. It simply exists, carved into stone, filled with displaced scholars, sitting quietly at the edge of a province too busy fighting itself to notice. And perhaps that's why it's the most unexplored place in all of Skyrim. Because in a world obsessed with dragons and destiny, the quietest stories are the easiest to miss. But they are often the most revealing.